finish up tonight. John chapter 11. Now you think about this, the past several weeks, as we've been getting through the account of Lazarus' resurrection, you think about this. This whole chapter is maybe one of the most amazing, jaw-dropping, make your heart skip a beat things that people have ever seen. Where a man dies, he's dead for 4 days, and then at the word of Jesus, he literally comes back to life. I mean, it's very easy just to read that and be like, oh, he came back to life. Well, okay, you find that a few times in the Bible. No big deal. Barely an inconvenience. I don't know if we can grasp that. Can you imagine standing there, seeing that? Put your mind there for a moment, okay? That there's all these mourners that are around the tomb that come. They follow Jesus and Mary and Martha now to Lazarus' tomb. You saw Lazarus get buried. You saw a big old stone put over the tomb. Nothing's changed. Okay, you saw his dead body. And then this man, Jesus, comes and you hear him pray. You hear him ask to roll the stone back. You're thinking, why is he doing this? Okay, you hear Martha say to Jesus, he's going to smell. We open up the tomb, is this going to smell? And Jesus says, you need to believe. And then they pull the stone back, they push it back, and then all Jesus does is speak. And suddenly there's movement from inside the tomb. And here comes this man that you saw his dead body. You hadn't seen him for 4 days, and there's no way he could have survived. He was dead. And here he is, he's alive. And now you know that this man Jesus made that happen. Can you imagine that? Try and put your mind there and being in that situation and seeing that. Now what we're going to see here tonight is that, let's look down at verse 45. Because some of the reaction, the first half of the reaction that we see, is that, look at verse 45, it says, then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did, believed on him. So there's belief there. People see this happen, and they believe. But not everyone believes. And that's really the focus as we finish chapter 11 tonight, is it's really this topic of, I put it like this, obstinate unbelief. Obstinate unbelief. We've seen this with the Pharisees already. People who refuse to believe truth, even when it's presented to them. Even when the facts are undeniable, they refuse to believe. And that's not just they can just go off and do their own thing. If they don't want to believe, every man for himself. They choose not to believe, well, okay, free will and all that. But the ramifications of someone who refuses to believe truth, well, here it plays out in a big way. And I think there's a lot of translation, there's a lot of carryover to today and how people react to Jesus. So what we're going to see here tonight is that the Pharisees' reaction to the resurrection of Lazarus is that they're so worried about themselves. They are so selfish that they only see Jesus as a threat to their livelihood. So let's pick up in verse 46, and let's read verse 46. Let's get kind of the whole picture here. Let's read verse 46 down through verse 53. A couple of you want to read first tonight? Okay, Brian, all right. Ryan, you read 46, 47. Landon, 48, 49. Nick, 50, 51. And then Abby, 52, 53. Okay? So I'll follow along there, starting in verse 46.
But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what things Jesus had done. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we? For this man does many miracles.
If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all.
For considering that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for that nation.
And not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one of the children of God that were scattered abroad. And from that day forth they took counsel together for to put him to death.
All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, so we'll get through that first chunk there, and then we'll keep reading through the end of the chapter. When I initially came to this passage, I was thinking, it's almost like there's not too much to work with here. How much time should we really spend on this? Should I try and pack, just glaze over this and then keep moving forward and get us into chapter 12? But I think there's a lot for us to learn from this tonight, okay? So we're talking about the unbelief of the Pharisees, and I call this obstinate unbelief. So here's the first big thing that we want to see about unbelief, obstinate unbelief, okay, is that obstinate unbelief is self-preserving. It's self-preserving. It's all focused on self. Okay, so we'll flesh that out here a little bit, but let's work our way through it, okay? So verse 46, we see there that some of the people who witnessed Lazarus' resurrection, they go and they actually, they do the little tattletale thing. They go to the Pharisees and tell them, hey, this is what Jesus has done now. He did this miracle, and maybe they phrase it in a different way, maybe they try and make it sound, and they just tell them, here, this is what I saw. Okay, and that, so the Pharisees are told about Lazarus' resurrection. I think about, we'll pause here for a quick second. Why would someone who witnessed this miracle decide to go and tell the Pharisees who they know are opposed to Jesus? Why would somebody do that? What do you think? That's the first question for you. Yes.
Maybe because the Pharisees bribed that person.
Okay, maybe bribery. There's definitely, okay, let me put it like this. Do people know how the Pharisees feel about Jesus? Yeah, they've made that known, okay? What else? Yes? Okay, so maybe there's disbelief in their hearts, okay? And even though they've seen it, they see the resurrection, they still don't believe. Okay, yes? Bragging? Oh, that's an interesting thought. I had not thought about that. Here's the ones that I thought of, is maybe there's an aspect of trying to gain favor. It's like, that's what kids do when they tattletale. They want to get the other kid in trouble. They want to get their sibling in trouble. We would never do that. We would never tell on our siblings, right? Because we're all mature teenagers. We would never get our sibling in trouble. Okay. But what's the reason that kids do that? Okay, because they want to see something bad happen to their sibling. They want to see them get in trouble. They want to feel justified. Maybe they want to get in good with mom and dad. I think there's a little bit of a similar aspect here. Is that these people who witness the miracle, but then they don't believe. Maybe they want favor. Maybe they want connection. They want to come up a notch in the Pharisees' eyes. So they go and they tattle on Jesus, if you will. Okay. Now. So we go down to verse 47. It says, then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council. Okay, so the Pharisees call, the name of that council would be the Sanhedrin, which would be 70 of religious leaders. It's the highest for the Jews. It's the highest religious authority in the land. Okay, really the highest authority. They still answer to Rome. Rome has a lot of stipulations on them because Rome's in control. But as far as the Jews go, this is the highest council that can be called. Okay. So this problem with Jesus now makes, hey, we need to call an assembly. We need to get all of us together and meet and figure out what we're supposed to do with Jesus. Okay, so hopefully that puts it in your mind that the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, they now are saying this is serious. Okay, this is not just all of us working on our own. This is serious. And this even coincides with Pastor's series on the book of Mark, where the different parts of the Sanhedrin, Pharisees, the Herodians, the Sadducees are coming to Jesus trying to trap him, okay? So they're starting, all these people are starting to work together in order to take Jesus down. They get together and they have this council, okay? So, there you go, there's the point. Whoopsies. There you go. Yeah. Okay, so here you go. And the Pharisees really, they see themselves in a predicament here, okay? and there's this escalating problem of Jesus. They've been trying to take him down. They've been trying to discredit him, but nothing's working. And now he's doing, it's the biggest miracle that he has done. Okay, maybe the most jaw-dropping miracle that he's done is this resurrection of Lazarus. So there's this escalating problem of Jesus. And essentially they say, look down at verse 7. It says, then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we? For this man doeth many miracles. So when they say that phrase there, what do we? It even has the idea of what are we doing? Okay, you think that when someone asks that question and you're in a group and you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, and someone says, "Hey, what are we doing?" They want a solution, right? It's the idea of, "Hey, we've got to do something about this man. We've got to do something." Okay. Now they recognize. Let's see. Take us on to the next slide here. They recognize that Jesus is doing miracles. Okay, so think about that. They realize that Jesus is doing miracles. They can't deny that. Again, they're seeing the facts laid out in front of them. They can't deny. They even state it here. This man's doing miracles. Okay, but here's let's keep continuing here into how they see their predicament. Okay, this man doeth many miracles. Verse 48, if we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him. They're saying, listen, if we don't stop him, if we just leave him alone, more and more people are going to come to believe on him. Okay? And then they have this statement here. Look back down at verse 48. All men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. Okay, so they had this thought here that if we don't stop Jesus, people are going to keep on believing on him, and then Rome is going to take away our place and our nation. So that's the question there on the screen for you. Is Rome will remove them, the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin. Why would they think that? Okay, let's delve into that a little bit. Yes, David.
Like maybe you think Rome will maybe think it's like a riot and like the Pharisees are not keeping it under control, so they don't have to step in.
Yeah, very good. That's good thought. What are you going to say? Okay, all right, good. I think that is exactly what they're talking about. Eli?
So I was thinking along the same lines as David, but more of like how the Jews actually believed in a war against Rome, the earthly war against Rome and freeing them from captives. So Rome might have heard about that and they want to stop it at the root instead of letting it flow.
I think that's a great point. That does go hand in hand. What were you going to say, Max?
Like some people in Rome might come to believe Jesus, and they might see what Jesus sees, their hardened hearts, and so they're going to be like, "Hey, we need to stop this."
Okay. Yeah. I'll tweak you a little bit there, but I think you're on the right track. Okay. So they're afraid. They say, we don't do anything about him, then people are going to keep on believing on him, and then Rome is going to take away our place and our nation. Okay. So think about this, if Jesus becomes the Messiah, the religious authority, and they're thinking the religious leader who is going to overthrow Rome, then he's going to usurp their position, okay? Because the Messiah should be higher than the priests, higher than the Pharisees, okay? So they're looking at it from that angle. I think the other angle is, what you guys were bringing up, is there's that aspect of, okay, well, he's the Messiah, and he's going to try and overthrow Rome, and we've seen how all the rebellions have gone in the past, okay? And if we lose control of the situation, now Rome's going to come down harder on us as the Pharisees. So they're afraid of the blame coming to them, okay? There's a couple things to bring up here real fast. Okay, good. They make this statement there. They say, the Romans shall come, in verse 48, and take away both our place and our nation. Okay? So when they say our place, they're meaning, okay, their temple, the temple work that they do. But I think more into that, they are thinking of their role. Okay? So they're thinking, as religious authorities, we are going to get removed. Okay? And then when they say nation, okay, that Rome's gonna, the Jewish nation will be affected. Okay, the Jewish nation will be crushed. But I would submit that they're thinking more their culture, like they say culture, they say nation, but they really mean their followers, the people who listen to them, the people who they have authority over. So it's all about self-preservation. So here's the point, is that for the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, is that their life that they were living, the temporal things, the status they had, maybe the wealth that's there, the respect from the people, they're so afraid of losing all of that it blinds how they look at Jesus. They're so focused on themselves. Their temporal life was more important than anything. They couldn't recognize Jesus because of that. So, before we move on to the next point here, let's talk about this for a moment. How can their reaction relate to our culture today? I think I have that as a point. There's the question. It's not up there, but that's my question for you. So how can their reaction, okay, we put it back up there, that obstinate unbelief, that self-preserving, how can that relate to our culture today? I ask you. David, come back at it.
Well, like for atheists, it might show their, like, if they believe in Jesus, they might look pretty weak because they're trusting in something bigger than they are, and like atheists believe in no God at all, and man is basically their own God.
Okay. All right, good. I agree. How else? No? How does the Pharisees' reaction, how can we relate that to our culture today?
I was thinking maybe the Muslims and how if they were to believe in Jesus Christ, then they would look like, since they sent people to America to act as bombs, they would basically asking people to commit suicide for no reason.
Okay, well, let's not just think of other religions. Let's just think of people, because yes, there is that aspect of other religions, but maybe keep this moving along here. Okay, David, last one, and then we'll yes.
They might get discriminated or being
Okay, discriminated against. Sure. Well, think about this, okay? Because if someone's going to come to Christ, there is an aspect where you give up a lot of things. Right? Following Christ, there is surrender that's involved. There is repentance that's involved. You can't come to Christ without repentance, which means saying, I'm wrong. I can't save myself. I'm a sinner. I have no hope on my own. And it's not, in Christianity, following Christ is not about the do's and the don'ts. But because I'm following Christ, yes, there's things that I'm going to put away, or I ought to put away, or I ought to stay away from. That's there. So for someone to follow Christ, they might have to miss out on some earthly things, some temporary things, some things that maybe would bring some happiness in this life. You might have to give up something. I mean, broadly speaking, following Christ means you're not living for yourself. Your life is not, you're not pursuing your own goals. If someone is so wrapped up in themselves, they won't come to Christ. In order for someone to come to Christ, they have to let go of all maybe the things that they think they want. Does that make sense? Okay, so there's the first point. That obstinate unbelief is self-preserving. Here's the next one, is that obstinate unbelief is irrational. We've already read this, but let's continue and work our way through the rest of this, okay? Obstinate unbelief is irrational. So these Sanhedrin, they see themselves in this bad predicament, and as we read, Caiaphas, the high priest, he finally speaks, okay? As they're all going back and forth, and finally he quiets them, and he speaks. It's kind of harsh what he says. Look at verse 49. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all. Don't you love it when someone says that to you? You don't know anything. And then he gives this, what I call a murderous ultimatum. He says, Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient or better for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. Okay, so here's what he presents. He's the leader. Okay, he's the high priest. He's the top dog, which means that when he finally speaks, they are all going to listen to him. And so he gives basically these two choices. He says, it's better. That's that word there in verse 50. He says, nor consider. He says, you're not thinking about that it's better for us. And he means the Jewish people as a whole. That's how he presents it. He says, it is better. It's expedient for us that one man should die instead of the whole nation of Israel being affected. And that's what he presents. Think about that. Here's a religious leader, a man of God. He's supposed to be, anyways. And he's presenting to the rest of the leadership, look, we gotta get rid of him, or else the whole nation's going to be affected. We've got to do a little bit of bad in order for everyone to be preserved. That's this discussion they've been having. Okay, if we don't do something about Jesus, then in one way or another, Rome's going to come crashing down on us. Their faith is weak. So he presents this, really, it's an ultimatum. He says, look, either Jesus has got to die, or the whole nation of Israel is going to be crushed by Rome because of this uprising that he's going to bring about. And so he gives them it's this either or thing. Like think about this. The high priest is literally saying, look, people, we have to choose the lesser of two evils here. And so it's Caiaphas, when we come to the trial of Jesus, it's Caiaphas, the high priest, who makes sure that Jesus makes a statement about his divinity. Caiaphas is the one who says, are you really God? Are you really God's son, sent from heaven? And when Jesus says, I am, then Caiaphas says, hey, we got him. Blasphemy, worthy of death. And now it's okay. We can justify murder because we've had our trial. And that's what he presents here. He's got to die, or else things are going to go bad for the nation of Israel. That's how he presents it. Now, here's the thing that is interesting, is that Caiaphas he's literally speaking murder here. He's saying that this has to happen. But God has a meaning behind his words, and John, the writer, interprets that for us. Okay? So, there's God's meaning in Caiaphas' words. Look at verse 51. It says, in Caiaphas, it says, and this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for that nation. And not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad. So, it says that he should die for the people, okay? And it's not, and so Caiaphas is saying, he's presenting, look, Jesus has to die so that Israel can be saved. And what God's meaning there, that John interprets for us, is Jesus has to die so that all of mankind can be saved. Not so people's good lifestyle can be upheld. Not so the Pharisees will have their status. Oh, there you go. Not so Israel can be saved from Rome. That's what Caiaphas is presenting. But so that the world can be saved from their sin. That's God's meaning behind his words. Now, his words, I don't know if I have this point in here. Okay. Think about this real quick, is that these religious leaders and the knowledge of the Old Testament that they have, but that they don't apply. How many Old Testament passages talk about the Messiah? How many Old Testament passages, I was going to put it up on the screen for you, but I did not. How many Old Testament passages talk about God gathering all people who will believe to himself? And how that should have been in the Pharisees' minds. That should have been there. They're so bent against Jesus, they're so focused on themselves, that they're throwing out the Bible knowledge that they have. They're not even considering it. So, they move forward with, in Caiaphas' leadership, they follow him. Look at verse 53. We'll read to the end of the chapter. We'll finish it out here. It says, then from that day forth, they took counsel together to put him to death. And so this is where they are talking about, okay, we can't just out and kill him. We can't go and assassinate him. What's a way that he's going to have to die? And you know this is where they're talking about, hey, he's already talked about the fact that he's God. If we can get him trapped, talking and accuse him of blasphemy, convict him of blasphemy, then we can put him to death. Those are the conversations that we're having, that they are having. Okay? So again, Sanhedrin, they follow Caiaphas' leadership, and it's because of their spiritual bias towards Jesus. And so their love of temporal things, their love of their lifestyle, their status, their wealth, the things that they have, the things that they can touch, the respect that they get from people, that blinds them to truth. Because it's all about them. So that's what they've come to this conclusion. It's because obstinate disbelief is irrational. They've come to this irrational either-or scenario. They've thrown out the knowledge that they have. Now, look at verse 54. Jesus, he wisely stays out of the public eye. Verse 54, Jesus therefore walked no more openly among the Jews, but went thence into a country near to the wilderness, into a city called Ephraim, and there continued with his disciples. So he stays out of the public eye. But as Passover is coming, Jesus remains the primary focus of the religious leaders. It says, and the Jews' Passover was near at hand, and many went out of the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. And the religious leaders, as all these people are making the pilgrimage to Jerusalem for the Passover, all the religious leaders can focus on is, where's Jesus? Where's Jesus? Look at verse 56. Then sought they for Jesus, and spake among themselves, as they stood in the temple. What think ye, that he will not come to the feast? So they're literally, as they're going about, the priests, the religious leaders, as they're preparing for the Passover, the most important religious observance of the year, and all they can think about is Jesus, and how they're going to stop him. Has anybody seen him yet? It says, as they stood in the temple, they're literally looking out, observing people coming by, looking for Jesus. You think he's going to come? He's not. There's no way he's going to skip the Passover. He's going to be here. So it's even Jesus takes up their focus in this wrong way, because they are so obstinate in their disbelief. And then verse 57 closes it out. It says, now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a commandment that if any man knew where he was, he should show it, that they might take him. So it's like they essentially put out an arrest warrant. Okay? So, it's frustrating. It's frustrating, isn't it? To me it is. See how people can be so close-minded. We have to remember that someone who is not a Christian and who is just focused on themselves, it's going to be hard for that person to come to Christ. There's all these barriers that you have to work through. People can get so focused on the things in front of them, what they have, their career, their goals, their grades, their friends, whatever. They can be so focused on the things they can touch and they can feel that they can't see past those things to come to Christ. Or it's going to be very hard for them to. And that's where we as believers, we have this truth. That's where we have to chip through that barrier. We have to show them the love of Christ. We have to talk to them about Christ. We have to talk about what Christ means to us, what our salvation means to us, what eternal security means to us. We got to guard against that ourselves. We got to guard against that selfishness ourselves, right? How many Christians live in that same way, where sure, their eternity is secure, but they just live for themselves? All right. We should wrap. I'm sure we're close to time. 58? All right. We'll wrap it up. Keep some of these things in your mind. I'll just remind you. Don't just walk out and forget about what we talked about tonight. Maybe there's somebody that the Lord is laying on your heart. Maybe you've got a friend or a cousin who needs the Lord. Do that. Let's do that. I wasn't necessarily planning this per se, but I want you to do that for a minute. I'll close this in prayer here in a moment. I want you to ask the Lord to bring somebody to mind. Maybe the Lord has already brought somebody to mind. I want you to talk to the Lord about that person. Ask Him to use you in your life. Use you